Hey moms, in this episode we discuss the power of your weekly check-ins. Listen up, managers and employees alike. These meetings are so important for connection, clarity, and support.
Welcome, moms. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. If you see us, if you're with us, give us a comment, give us a like. You know, every month, Tangela Reed and I come here for the monthly HR Corner for Moms because we know what it's like to be a working mom, and it is difficult juggling it all. But then, certainly from an HR perspective, we want to set you guys up for success in the workplace. So that could be things like performance appraisals, how to manage up, how to manage your weekly check-ins, how to find mentorship in your workspace, all the questions, benefit stuff. You could also DM us, but pretty much we're here for you. This is free of charge. I mean, for now. No, I'm just like, this is free. This is free for now, but let us know what questions you have. What's going on in the workplace right now? People are going back to work, hybrid. There's so many things. There's so many things. People don't even know how to like interact properly anymore in real life. So there's so many things. So always feel free to give us a message, give us a comment, let us know what's going on with you. But here we are. This month's topic is managing weekly check-ins. Tangela, how are you before we get into it?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Yesterday, I went back to work, like to the office for the first time in 2 years.
No.
So I mean, I'll tell you, it was an experience because, so much has been very different. So when you think about what pre-COVID, right, it was work from like 7 something getting on the bus until like 7 something or maybe 6:30 picking up the kids, getting off the bus and picking up the kids at that time. And I can remember my daughter saying to me, "Mom, I'm so happy you're here and you're around." And yesterday, we walked to school and I got on the bus and I just kept thinking about that. My heart was pounding, and it was a combination of things. One, I've never met anyone at my company in person. Well, not many people at my company in person. So this was the first, it felt like, going to school for the first time. But the other thing is, I've been in such close quarters to manage everything. Like if something happens, somebody missed their water bottle, somebody forgot their violin, somebody needs, to be picked up because they are sick, whatever it is. All of that stuff I kind of had to like just let go of yesterday. And I did feel I was excited to see people, but I did feel a little anxious going back into the city and kind of getting back into that routine.
I think there's a lot of anxiety going on right now as we go back into what used to be normal activities, coming from a lot of different spaces. I also feel like things feel way more exhausting now than before. Like just a trip to work and back feels like 5 times as heavier as it once did. And you used to do it like 5 times a week and then be busy on the weekend too. So it's interesting. It's an interesting transition. And then you not even knowing the people that you work with, that's quite odd too. Don't you? Look, this has happened before. I've hired people and then I meet them in real life and I'm like, you are so much shorter than I thought, right?
Yep. I was just talking to someone who I was like, I've never met, we've never seen each other in person. So this is all I know, shoulder and up. So yeah, super interesting.
Yep, it is a time. But nonetheless, whether you're hybrid, going back to work, or still remote or in the office 5 days a week now, managing your weekly check-ins is super important, more important than maybe you think. I mean, and we're here to kind of discuss some tips and tools and exchange best practices on how that weekly check-in actually has this kind of compounding effect to what happens twice a year with your performance evaluation and stuff.
That's right.
Talk to me a little bit about weekly check-ins and kind of just generally speaking, why they're important.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've always talked about like this from a goal setting standpoint, managing your career. And I just want to do 2 things with this topic. One, speak to it from a manager's perspective. So if you are a manager, this is your opportunity to check in with your team, informally, hopefully, but also potentially use some of these spots as a more formal check-in. And before I get into the career management piece, we talked about going back to work and the hybrid and all that other stuff. People are facing a lot of things right now. As we, like me and my company, as we prepare to go back to work, things are just being exposed that you would have had no clue about. So I could be working from home, like from my bed, all 8 hours of the day, right? Because but you're a good example, right? Because let's use you as an example, Cindy. If you hurt yourself and you didn't actually report it to your job, then they would assume, because you're able, right? They would assume you're good to go. So now it's hybrid, time to come back in the office 2 times a week, but you've never said anything about your leg, or you've never said anything about your MS, or you've never said anything about your back or your spine surgery, whatever it is. Like, all of these things are happening in the background. So that check-in, less about the check-in on work and more about the check-in on the people, I think is really, really important right now. So if you're a manager, keep in mind that these are people that you're working with, not just cogs in a wheel, and take a moment to have a personal check-in to understand how people are doing, what issues they may be facing, celebrate some milestones, maybe a birthday, whatever it is. Just make it a little bit, human in your check-in. Hopefully you're already doing that, but yeah, that's my first point.
That's so good. I don't know why that's so hard for people. Is that right? Cogs? I don't know if I spelled that right. Forgive me, you all. But
I can't see where you're typing.
Oh, yeah. With StreamYard, it has a whole little banner system. So I throw up banners on our live stream.
Cool.
So yeah, we're happening. But basically, if you are a manager, that's so cool. I can see it now.
Oh, yes, that's it.
Be intentional about being a human being, because we know you're going through a lot. They're going through a lot. But as managers, it is up to us to model the way. We have this kind of leadership responsibility to kind of lead the way and be that touch of motivation, to be that, that leader in setting the energy. Your video went out. Can you hear me?
I can. I'm with you.
All right, cool. So anyway, that's a great note for your managers. First thing, this is what I do too in my check-ins. It's always like, hey, how was your weekend? How are you feeling? How are you sleeping?
Yeah.
Such and such. How's the family doing with your transition? Blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
What else?
So from a employee side or associate side, whatever you refer to yourself as, come prepared, right? So when I think about how I check in with my own manager, I typically send an agenda ahead of time. Your manager may or may not have your weekly, right? So I've experienced managers who will set up a weekly, potentially at the beginning of your relationship. And then you got it on the calendar, but you get into this habit of saying, oh yeah, I don't really have anything. Let's skip it. I don't really have anything. Let's do it next, right? Go to your weeklies. If your manager doesn't set one, you set one, and come with an agenda. And the reason I say that is because I think it does get easy to kind of just start doing your day-to-day, but not really managing to either the goals that you guys have set up or not managing to anything. You kind of go with the flow. You do, things that come to you from either your colleagues, different departments, whatever it is. But the thing about managing your career is it has to be a focused effort, right? So you want to make sure that you're working on the right things. You're working on things that will get you credit at the end of the year. We talked about how this is all leading up to your mid-year or your end of the year. So sometimes you might be a very flexible, nimble, helpful, humble person, and you might help on anything and everything. But at the end of the day, you do have a role that you're focused on. So when you set that agenda, it helps not only to prepare for the meeting, but you're writing things out, and you are allowing your managers to kind of evaluate, is she or he, are they working on the right types of things? Like, why is she working on that? Why is he doing that? Why is he focusing on this? And then you open up that dialogue about where you're headed and if you're in the right direction.
Ooh, what I love the most about this is the fact that we get to orchestrate and decide what information we're going to confirm and contract with our manager. So we're like, hey, here are our top 3 priorities. This is where I'm spending my time. Here, this is how it's going. Pretty much, if your manager's like, sounds good, you're an all-star, a month later, they can't really, and this is what the messaging is. And a month later, they can't really say, oh my gosh, why were we focused? You shouldn't have done that. And you can kind of say, nope, let's check the receipts, as they say, let's look back at all of our check-ins. I've recorded it. You knew this. I'm an all-star. You said it like 5 times. So help me understand. Help me understand how we're off base. It sounds like you're off base, John. So I love that. It's just, we never want to be in this situation 6 months down the line where we're surprised by anything, right? This information that's associated with us. It's almost like a personal brand, our personal track record, and we get to author it in very little ways with our weekly check-ins with our manager.
Yep. So I totally agree with that. When you think about the weekly check-in, I do think it is more of generally speaking, this is like your informal time to check in with your manager on projects. So when you think about another way you could utilize your weekly check-ins, it could be to get help with your projects. So maybe you're stalled on something. Maybe you need your manager to remove a barrier somewhere. Maybe you thought you could handle something, but you need more support. Maybe you are way ahead, right? Like you're on track, you're ahead of the initial timeline for your project. So you want to start to think about what you could be preparing for next, or how you can either, add or supplement whatever you're working on. So this would be a time to check in on like your project management, how things are going, remove barriers that your manager may be able to help you with, and just give them a overall update on how things are going.
I love that. It's so good because when I look at the week, so much is happening in the 5 days, right? Where you may not even be able to get your manager's undivided attention, right? So a lot of times people are like, oh yeah, catch them in the hallway, or I'm just going to pop into their office. But if they're out, if they're at home, if whatever it is, I always suggest dump it into our check-in agenda for a check-in, unless it's urgent. Then text me, call me, whatever, pop in. But this is like that spot where you could offload all of your questions, all of your things, and put it there to get help and being proactive and making sure like you're going to get through your challenges, you're going to get through your walls, and dump it there so that you're constantly asking for the support that you need to be successful.
Yeah. So at the beginning, I had mentioned your check-ins are for, kind of like weekly status reports kind of thing. But at the same time, we talked about managing your career, right? And how this is leading up to your mid-year and ultimately your annual review. Cindy, you had mentioned, your manager saying, oh yeah, I'm a superstar, you're a superstar, and kind of recording that. I would say it would be important to put in some, I guess, focus on professional development and performance management for some of your weekly check-ins. Unless you have like a totally separate meeting, right? You do your weekly check-ins and that's specifically on projects or status updates. That's one thing. And then you have a separate meeting where you guys talk about you as talent, you as, where's your career going, that kind of thing. Unless you have 2 separate sets of meetings, utilize your weekly check-ins. I would say at least 1 a quarter to do another check-in that's specifically focused on your performance, right? So how are you doing? It's been, if it's within a quarter, it's been, I don't know, 1.5 months. If you had to evaluate me right now, what would that look like? And you will put your manager on a spot. So you definitely want to, again, go with an agenda so that you are not catching them off guard, and have a detailed discussion about your performance so that you can be not just try to catch them with your notes that you've recorded, but be clear on what their expectations are. And I would say you should incorporate some questions around their focus, the work that they're doing, the goals that they're focused on. If you don't have a view into that, get a view into that, because that, again, will help to steer your focus, right? Because you don't want to be working on something that your department or your team is not even getting credit for. Make sure you're using this time to get information from your manager on not only how you're doing, what the team should be focused on, and then get some very specific criticism or praise or a combination of the two from them. And then the final point would be incorporate a time to talk about what you could be doing in the future, right? So this is also a time, not only performance, but also career management. So if you're working in a team now, you want to stay in the team, but you're looking to get to a next level, those check-ins about your performance and your career, that's the time to ask those things.
That's good. What do you think gets in the way of us having successful weekly meetings?
Not planning, not taking them seriously enough, not understanding the value of them, not coming prepared to them. I don't think people spend enough time with a lot of things when it comes to like working through things. A lot of times and when I say working through things, I mean, when we go to work, we are in a career. If you're in your career, right, and you're not just kind of going to fulfill a task, you typically will have an end game or something that you're trying to achieve. And a lot of times as we're working, we don't take any of this stuff seriously. Performance management, even at the annual time, a lot of times it's kind of like a check the box type of thing. So I just think people don't take it seriously enough and don't utilize it as the tool that it is.
That's good. No, I think that's right. What other information do we want to share about weekly check-ins? You've already shared such great information.
Yeah, I mean, I think once you start to take yourself a bit more seriously when it comes to your weekly check-ins, when you do things like set an agenda and you do it consistently, you also put your manager in a position where he or she or they may be more prepared as well. So you keep them on their toes and thinking. You create the impression that you are dedicated to the role that you're doing. And I don't see any downside in having a weekly check-in where you incorporate not only, again, your day-to-day task and the agenda around that, but also utilize time with your manager, one-on-one FaceTime with your manager to manage your career.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. I'm trying to think. The only other thing I would add is remember, as a manager, you are part of what creates the culture for your employees. We always think it's like, oh, it's the building, it's the location, it's the activities that we do together. It's actually your communication to your employee every day, every week, every month. So remember, you are that culture catalyst, and using these moments of undivided attention on this person, you are literally pouring into them. That's our job as a manager. As an employee, same thing. You are trying to make sure that this relationship is good, stable. It's a good exchange between you two, and that's your moment to do it, right? That's your moment to build this relationship and continue to pour into it so that it is successful. And just like with any relationship, it's the consistency, right? It's a consistent attention and energy into it that hopefully builds a strong, successful, stable relationship to help move us to our future selves and our greater selves.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about like goal setting and like the performance management cycle. And when you think about this, the weekly check-ins helps you to build a relationship with your manager. And that is when you see more engagement. That's when you see more loyalty. That's when you see more open communication. Like again, I don't think there's any downside to having consistent and regular weekly check-ins. I mean, maybe for everyone it's not weekly. Maybe that's not the ideal. Maybe that's not the ideal cadence, right? But every 2 weeks. If it must be monthly, maybe, but I think that's kind of pushing it. That's a long time to go without direct focused attention in a one-on-one session.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it also opens the door to, if things are brewing, right? If something is off, it's just going to get worse.
Right.
If attention isn't given to it. So those
Yep.
are the tough situations. All right. Anything else we want to share?
I don't think so. I mean, again, I started off giving like the manager side and the employee side. Right now in this moment, I mean, we've been through so much in the last 2 years, and really, we've always been going through a lot, right? We've been raising families. We've been taking care of children. We've been taking care of elderly parents. We've been having things happen with ourselves. We've had substance abuse issues. We have been homeless. There's a myriad of things that could be happening with any individual. And COVID, like this pandemic, has given us this opening to begin to talk about that stuff at work. Whereas before we were kind of pretended or tried our best to kind of act like we were just like this one-dimensional worker. So I would say on the manager side, really, this is an opportunity for that communication so that, I mean, companies that pay attention to people and provide like a real experience that comes from the heart are more successful. Don't ask me about the stats on that. I don't know the percentages. I know I would be more loyal to a manager who treated me like a person, who acknowledged my responsibilities and me as a person outside of work. So having these regular meetings with your employees or associates leads to that type of relationship building that you want.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say we have what's been described in some articles as a war on talent right now. So people are leaving the workplace at record numbers. For many women at the beginning of the pandemic, it was related to childcare. Others have seen so much loss that they're like, you know what, life is too short. So I'm going to focus on things that I love to do versus this job where, you know, maybe nobody even cares about what I want to do. So there's so many things that have shifted. And I think creating engagement through relationships is super important. And that's why something like a weekly check-in will be important. On the associate side, you want to be productive. Like hopefully you are working in a role that you are happy with and you want to develop with or develop in. And a lot of people think people leave because they want to go and make more money. And I think, yeah, to some degree that's true. But really, people leave because their managers are not great, right? At communicating, at leading, at doing all things related to keeping an employee engaged. And that engagement doesn't only mean that they're happy, but it means that they're happy. They're not talking negatively about the company. They're likely bringing others into the fold because they think it's a great place to work. And it may seem like a small thing, but I think the weekly check-in, not to overstate it, but it can be a really powerful tool to keep people engaged.
Yeah, 100%. I felt that in the thick of the pandemic, for sure, connection was a real big piece. Is figuring out how to create more ways to connect with individuals, but then even create groups, small groups of individuals. Like I was telling somebody, you know, I would create different group text communities based on what we like, whether it's like shoes or plants or something like that, where we would like continue to like engage with each other outside of work or during work or whatever. But the layers of connection were really important. And as people go back to the workspace, to me, I feel like that's a good opportunity to kind of like still leverage those connections and community. Yeah. And then once you're in person, it makes it better. But honestly, just because you're back in person, it doesn't all of a sudden just make community happen, right?
That's right.
You still have to like take accountability for your actions, be a good manager, like do all these things, where I think before people didn't have to do that. right? Because you would see each other, right?
Yeah.
You didn't have to have the tough conversation because you could just walk in on somebody and say, hey, what you working on, Bill? You know, but like now you actually have to manage people's, manage their work and ask them where they, need support if they're failing or something like that. And so anyway, it's a really good opportunity right now, I think, to leverage the lessons learned from COVID and make the back to work space even better. But people have to want to.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to put a quick plug in here. So if anyone listening needs a list of questions, whether they are associates or employees, or if they're managers that you would use during your weekly check-ins or your regular check-ins, send us. I guess the best way is a DM. If you have a request for any questions that you could use for these types of meetings.
So really quick, this is from Tony. It's not going to show her, maybe because it's anonymous. Sorry, Tony. But, that's from your mom, actually. Your lady's doing it. Shout out to Mama Reed. This is from Tony. She said, I can't really say. I think everyone is trying to show some grace and manage day-to-day activities. Nothing extra. That's true. Definitely nothing extra. But you also said, what was your question, Tani?
My question, just now that
if you needed a list of questions.
Yeah, if you need a list of questions. So like sometimes people may not know what to say during their check-in. So like if you're an employee and you get into your weekly check-ins, but you're kind of like sitting there, awkward silence with your manager because maybe they've created the meeting, but they don't come with an agenda. They don't really tell you what to do within the weekly check-ins. And you could use a list of questions, DM us for a list of questions that you could use. And then at the same time, if you're a manager and you're managing associates, but you're not sure exactly how to use your weekly check-ins, maybe you've set them up or maybe you've never set them up, and you like to because of the great things that we've said and how useful we think it could be, then send us a request and we'll send you a list of questions.
Oops, that's wrong. A list of questions. I'm trying to multitask, guys. If you need a list of questions, I like this. I feel like, we're going to think on this. I think we have a lot of things, like different ways we can provide these resources. And if you are down, you all, something that I thought about last week, Tani, I didn't tell you, but it was an old idea that came back. I was like, we should really do like maybe a 3-week course or 4-week course or something like that for working moms around some HR topic of like career management or something like that. And then we can even provide these templates, right? I
love how you didn't tell me, like we're doing a whole course. Okay.
Yeah, it's a 4-week course for us, a webinar course for us. But no, we had talked about this before, and then it kind of circled back last week. And then we could provide these templates, really create this online resource for folks, because I think these stats are really cool, and they help us engage with other moms. And moms, always feel free to just look at old videos and comment on what's going on in the workplace for you, or better ways that we can be a resource for you. But really think about, okay, what more can we be doing? We could definitely create templates that folks can use, this list of questions or what have you. And then thinking about maybe a 4-week course that people can get involved with. So anyway, just putting it out there for anybody viewing now or later. What would you want to know? Because we can definitely customize it for you. And it would be a lot of fun, because we definitely want you to win in 2022, going back to the workplace. No matter what situation you're in, you might be in transition, you might be frustrated at work, you might be like, oh, I love my job, or I'm the best manager, whatever it is. It's a spot in time, it's a spot in the journey. And at any point of the journey that you're in, you can always be helpful to others. So that's what what I love the most about, is that we can always exchange and be supportive to each other and create community and get each other through. All right. So
really quickly, because I just wanted to mention one thing, because I talked to you about going back to work, and what I noticed with moms right now are probably planning for camp. I know I'm looking for camp. I don't know where everyone lives, but I will tell you.
Wait, why does it start so early though? Oh my gosh, I cannot do this. Who set this schedule?
I definitely thought I had time to like book aftercare and all this other good stuff. Everything, like if people were not utilizing it before, they are now. Everything is booked. So if you haven't started to look for camp options, or if your job hasn't gone back to work or gone back to hybrid, but you will need childcare, it's time to start looking, and you might need to be creative. And I know this is not totally related to a weekly check-in, but I'm gonna bring it back right now. During your weekly check-in, this is something that you would want to bring to your manager's attention if it will be an issue. Because I know with my current workplace, like we're making exceptions for people who may be in a difficult position with getting childcare arrangements, considering how things have gone over the past 2 years. So just personal experience plug there. Right.
That is so good. That is so good. I love it. Thank you for even bringing that up, because you're right. In our weekly check-ins, and I love when people do this really well, and I'm always like, why didn't I think of that? But like, advocate for yourself. Like, all right, it's not going to be a mystery. I don't want it to be a mystery for you, Bob, when June comes and the shift happens, where they're back in our houses, but we're shifting them out to a summer camp. Okay, side note, this was thank God I'm not in this situation anymore, but I think it was the first summer I was back here. I didn't have enough money to send my kids to the summer camps that was closest to me, I'm like, yo, who saves up like 5 G's for the summer? Right. Because if you have multiples, you're dropping something. You're dropping like a car, like you could buy, it's a down payment for a car. Yeah. And I had
your account is,
I was just like, I had no clue. I was ill prepared and I was broke, know. So I could not afford the summer camps in my area. And so I was looking for places to go, and I found a spot, but it was like a good 45 minutes away from where I live. And I said, okay, that's fine. That's what we'll do. How am I going to figure this out? My job was 30 minutes the other way. So we woke up early. I drove the kids 45 minutes to their place, drove like an hour and 10, an hour and 15 to get to work. Right. Like 8:30, 9 o'clock start. As soon as I could get out of there, I go another hour and 10 to like go pick them up and then come home in traffic for the entire summer. Wow. It was not fun. And this will never be on our resume, you all. But like, come on. You know what I mean? Like, talk about dedication, talk about grit. Amy Duckworth, look, it took a lot of grit to get through that summer with sanity. I planned my audiobooks, like I was just like, we're going to make the best out of it, Cindy, but it was tough. Anyway, all that to say, advocate for yourself. Oh, and by the way, my job at the time was like super terrible to me about that summer. Like they were not flexible. They were not trying to have me leave early, come in late, just so that I can like make the drive. Nothing like that. So advocate for yourself. Speak up. These are the moments where you speak up. Practice speaking up for yourself and practice asking for what you need. Because guess what? It's not just going to come to you. All right. The person on the other side who may be a male, who may not have children, all that stuff, they don't understand what's going on for you. They don't understand your struggle. They don't understand your needs. So this is a perfect opportunity. Your weekly check-ins is to advocate for yourself and just state your needs matter of factly, because you deserve to feel support. And that may look different for you versus, Scott next door who doesn't have any dependents, so that's okay. We have to stop fitting into what the majority of our office looks like and is, and just continue to press and push forward into what we need. and speak about it as if it is the norm.
No, I totally agree with that. And I know we kind of came out of the topic and then came back in, but just from a manager's side, I want to kind of go off of, or I hate to say piggyback, I feel like it's so overused, but anyway, I do want to piggyback off of what you just said. From a manager's perspective, I do think it's important to be flexible, right? You have your rules, you have your policies, but you also have individual people. So as moms, we definitely have needs that are different from those who don't have dependents. But in this time of inclusion and more acceptance in the workplace, there's so many people with different needs. So be flexible, be creative. Think about it from a perspective as if you were in the person's shoes. If it's not going to cause the group to lose money, if it's not going to create like some type of disadvantage for another person.
You froze, Tony. While she comes back, shout out to Tony for saying, stop being afraid to be a mom and an employee. The two can coexist. You don't have to choose one over the other. Let me quickly just text. Oh, there you go. You're back. You're frozen. You're back. Okay. I think you're coming back. I see your cute little eyes looking around. It is so hot up here. Oh my gosh, I need to open up a window. Anyway, Tony, thank you for saying don't be afraid, because that's right. We can be both. We are both, and we must demand that. All right, Tony, you back?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can. All right, final remarks.
Final remarks. Don't skip your, we said weekly, but regular check-ins. These are great tools for not only keeping you on point as far as being productive, but also as far as managing your career. Make sure you come prepared. Make sure you are open. I like the comment that was said around being a mom and being an employee at the same time. This is a great time for you to advocate for yourself and keep your manager on point. For managers, this is a great time for you to check in with your employee, bring some human side to it, check in on how people are doing. I've had people like, I consider them to be nearly on their deathbed, even though they're working and still doing things. So you definitely never know what people are dealing with. So check in with them. This is a good opportunity to create some loyalty and engagement by being flexible. But at the same time, you're also keeping with an agenda and a project plan, et cetera. So it's a good time to increase your productivity. Don't miss out on the opportunity to have a regular check-in with your team.
I love it. She said it best. I don't need to say anything else, but shout out to your mom, Mama Reed, for holding down the fan club. In the comments, our biggest fan. Nothing like a mama's love. Okay. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next month. I don't know what the topic is off the top of my head, but it's already there. Remember, we're here for you. Comment. Give us questions, DM us. What's going on in the workplace for you? We want to know. We want to continue to be a good resource for you. So until next time, let's win. Thanks, Tony. Love you.
My pleasure. Love you too. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. Remember to follow us and subscribe. Give us a comment. Let us know what you thought and what questions you have. How can we help? Let's win, moms.